You guys are amazingly compliant audience. Thank you so much for coming back. Delighted to get things started for the second portion of our afternoon. And to do that, I am going to turn things over to our moderator, Annette Miller, who is co-founder and CEO of Equity by Design.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. So happy to have you all here today. What an exciting day. I've been listening to people and it's just been really nice to hear how everyone is having an experience rather than school. Right. So we want to continue on with that. I'm really excited to have our panelists here with us today. As you can see, we're going to try to do a conversational style. So for this moment, I'm going to look at you and then you'll notice I'll start looking at the panelists. But this is the Building Resilient Individuals, Organizations and Communities Through Social Enterprise. So our topic today is going to be social enterprise. And we have 5 wonderful panelists with us here today who are going to help us talk about what are transformational initiatives underway across the region. I'm going to start at the end and work our way. We've got Katie Rice representing, who is WARF's Venture Relations Manager and Upstart Program Director. She manages investor relations and community engagement for UW-Madison startups and WARF's venture portfolio and runs Upstart, a free entrepreneurship program for women and people of color in Madison. Then we have Anthony Cooper. It is his life experiences that has allowed him to help others accelerate, and this has helped him accelerate his career. He is the CEO and president, founder of Focused Interruption, and also serves as the vice president of strategic partnerships and reentry services at Nehemiah Center for Urban Leadership Development. His fan crew's here. We didn't know. No one sent us memo to bring our fan team. We have Ruben Anthony Jr. here with us, who is the president and CEO of the Urban League of Greater Madison. Oh, see, that's starting now. And in that time, he has been with the Urban League. He has increased their job placements by 39% and has made over 1,400 placements to date. Woo, woo. Next to Ruben is Andrew Richards. He's my LGM8. He's my buddy. I'm his fan team. He is the director of discovery to product. And as the director, Richard works with the D2P team and campus community to set and implement strategic plans and programs that facilitate the commercialization of faculty, staff, and student innovation while also supporting the regional startup ecosystem. So welcome. And last but never least, we have Miss Alnissa Allgood, who is behind several socially responsible programs in Madison. So definitely well represented here today. And that's awesome. She is responsible for the Social Good Accelerator, Madison Nonprofit Day, which both fall under the umbrella of Collaboration for Good, which is a nonprofit that Allgood founded with the intent of helping other nonprofits improve and enhance their infrastructure so they can thrive well into the future. So we've got a great team of people today here to talk about social entrepreneurship. So the first question that I wanted to ask is because we say the word social entrepreneurship, right? We hear that word and we all have different ways in which we understand it. So I felt it would be really important if all of you could share with us, what is your definition of social entrepreneurship? And I want to kick it off with Katie going first, and we'll go in order at this point. So Katie, what is your definition of social entrepreneurship?
Great, thanks. And Annette mentioned that I run the Upstart program. So I am not a social entrepreneur, but I do spend a lot of time supporting social entrepreneurs. And actually in our program, we didn't even have a night for social entrepreneurship until a few years ago. And that's when we added, and Dr. Roxy Hentz was the original instructor for that night. And more recently, Eugenia Podesta, who runs Synergy Co-working, has taught our social entrepreneurship class. And so I wanted to borrow from Eugenia's definition because I think it's really all encompassing. So she usually teaches our cohorts that social entrepreneurship is an approach by individuals, groups, startups, or entrepreneurs where they develop, fund, and implement solutions to social, cultural, or environmental issues. This concept may be applied to a wide range of organizations which vary in size, aims, and beliefs. The thing that is most impactful to me on this is that it's an idea that can be applied to almost any organization, individual, or business. And so I think that oftentimes social entrepreneurship, we think, has to be a nonprofit. And I think that we're learning by all of the examples today is that it's really just having that mission and being able to execute on that.
Excellent. Anthony.
Wonderful.
That's why I read it. See,
I love the way
I
how you
got-
kind of like laid it out there. So to me, social entrepreneurship is really kind of sticking to our idea and making things work and being able to look outside the box, right? Because even now, for some of you all who know me and some of you all who don't, you know, I used to be a young knucklehead, went to prison, sold drugs and things of that nature. And so when I came home, and being home now 21 years, the whole thing was, only thing I did is just flip the script, as I like to call it, right? And being able to not only look at the things that are not there, but then also being able to recreate who I am and knowing that I have a bigger purpose. So, but then also being able to talk to other people and being able to show them that, hey, it's possible for you to be able to do something. Because outside of the other things that I do with Nehemiah and also with Focus Interruption, there's other things that I've always had passions of doing that what I didn't, at the time, I didn't necessarily look at that as being a social entrepreneur, but I was like, all right, but I know this can work, right? I know this can work, and then also this can help someone else. But then also it can help me to have a better understanding, knowing that there's some growth that's in me as well that was taking place all at the same time by meeting wonderful other entrepreneurs as well and connecting. So to me, I think about the connection piece. I think about, it's not just one answer to me. When I think about social entrepreneurships, because at the end of the day, it's something that's going to work for all of us. But then also some of it could be sometimes just teaching other people as well what that process can look like.
Okay, thank you. Ruben.
All right. Well, good afternoon. When I think about social entrepreneurship, I look at it from a social services organization perspective or a nonprofit perspective. And social entrepreneurship is when a nonprofit does things that are different. They're not just doing social service work, but they're doing entrepreneur type work. When I think about the work that the Urban League of Greater Madison does, I think about our social entrepreneurship function being our home ownership program, where we're trying to build wealth, or we're trying to build economic development, where we're making sure that we're putting poor people in a position to be homeowners. I think about one of my colleagues in the Urban League in New Jersey, and I think what they're doing is a great example of social entrepreneurship, because they're doing home ownership, but they purchased a duplex. And in that duplex, the families are able to become homeowners, but they're also able to become renters. So helping individuals, find their way out of poverty and lift themselves up, and building generational wealth through home ownership and other aspects. When you see social service organizations doing that, that's where that social entrepreneurship definition comes.
Nice. Andrew.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As Annette said, I work here at the university in an office called Discovery to Product, and we help faculty, staff, and students to commercialize ideas. And we work with social entrepreneurs. We work with traditional capitalist entrepreneurs, if you like. And my definition is seeing how the two of them are really blending together here on our campus. So my definition is one of an innovative venture that has a specifically designed impact on a societal change that they want to see happen, and that there's a sustainable business model that will keep that organization thriving. And it's usually something that's scalable, so that could move beyond our region here to other organizations. So that's kind of the way I think about it, as kind of a blending of the traditional and now the social enterprise or nonprofit coming together in that way. And I'll give you a quick, I guess the other thing I would say is, and we saw this in all day so far, is that the social entrepreneurs are really driven by their mission. And they're really passionate, and that drives their business model. It drives the way they operate their businesses. And one example though, of an organization that we're working with here on campus is Wisconsin Voice for Recovery. And they're creating naloxone kits So think about defibrillators that you might see in high schools or in malls or whatever. And they have the same concept, but they're putting naloxone in those, and they're making them available throughout the state of Wisconsin. So if there is an opioid overdose or something like that, it's there, it's available for them. And it's a really interesting business model, and it's something that's completely scalable. But you wouldn't see the private sector rushing out to do that. So they're really working in a space that traditional capitalist entrepreneurs don't find themselves. And I think that's one of the unique things about social entrepreneurs.
Great. So on this, after listening to all of these definitions from your peers here, what do you have for us?
Well, my short answer for social entrepreneurship is purposeful, positive, impact-driven social change in the people who want to do that. I think more specifically, I have a larger answer that it is about people who want to mix purpose with profit and who want to take care of their communities. They want to create work that is transformative, and they want to also support the communities and the people they work with, the communities that they work in, and the people who reside in those communities. And so I don't separate it from nonprofit or for-profit. I think social entrepreneurship encompasses the spectrum of it. So for-profit, nonprofit, cooperative, I don't know what I am. I'm just waiting. I'm trying to figure it out. All of those people can fall in there, but I think it kind of requires, for me at least to some degree, some aspect of economic equity in that. So like a lot of the people who I think are social entrepreneurs do want to pay themselves well. They want to pay their staff well, and they want to work in communities that have been impoverished and stolen from, and help those people get to a place where they feel that they deserve to also be paid well and not being paid slave wages. So
Okay. No, I like it.
yeah.
No, I think you brought up some really nuanced aspects of what's been put out there, and actually bridged into the other question that I had, which is, like when we're thinking about social entrepreneurship and we're trying to wrap our mind around like what it is and how it works, I felt like it would really be a great opportunity for you all to kind of talk about, so what are the what's the visionary component of social entrepreneurship? And I feel like you kind of got us started. So I'm going to kind of start with you because you talked about economic equity, and I heard you say purpose with profit, but that might not be what you would say are the visionary components, but that was what I was hearing. So what would be two, key elements of social entrepreneurship that feel visionary to you?
Well, for me, especially in terms of what's happening right now, I would say workplace innovation versus workforce innovation. For that, I think a lot of social entrepreneurs are redefining how work goes, the future of work.
Okay.
And it's not basically going after that our workers are somehow defective and like we need to improve the pipeline of getting people into work, into jobs that basically dismiss them, pay them poorly, and that combination of things. I believe in terms of social entrepreneurs, but even leading towards just pure for-profit entrepreneurs as well, is that there's basically going to be changes in the workplace. You're going to need to provide people some type of purpose. You need to provide them good pay, and like a number of new items that people are struggling with right now post-pandemic, because they're just kind of like, they're still in that old mindset. And it's like, no, the world changed. It was changing before the pandemic.
But
It's really changed after
right,
the pandemic for that. So workplace innovation, I would say, is one of the things. The other is, I would say, kind of worker-driven or participatory employment.
Okay.
In that. So I'm a fan of worker employers, basically.
Okay.
You know, so employers that work in the business that they developed versus people who invest in a business and want to siphon off as much profit for it for themselves. And they typically squeeze the workforce
Okay.
in it. So I think that requires people who are creating new businesses, they're creating new jobs, and then they're also working to include the people into the context of how do you work with us? How do we make this work valuable to you? How do we create something that's new and different and that you're excited about doing day after day? Because work is hard.
Right.
and you kind of have to do it
Right.
day after day unless you've somehow managed to get rich
Right.
around it. And so having your opinion valued, I think, is very, very good. And
Okay.
that's part of the change.
And so I'm just going to remind everybody what's going to be super hard for me and for everybody else is we have like a sprint 50 minutes and I'm just sitting here getting sucked in and Ruben's looking at my time.
You're gonna call me out.
We go far back. So if anyone's going to call me out, Ruben's going to call me out. I used to work for this guy, so he's used to calling me out.
I did too at one time.
So Andrew, do you want to tap into that one? What do you see?
Yeah, I guess I would say that I see some changes in the people we're working with and how they're approaching social entrepreneurship. And I think in the past, it would have been more of a nonprofit mindset, if you will. And now it really is social enterprise. And how do I create something that I can scale? I've got a passion to change the world. I can start here locally, but can I build something that can go beyond our community and something that I could take to Eau Claire, something I could take to Chicago, wherever. And so there's really a sense of scaling, I think, that is different than before. And then the other part is, we know that social entrepreneurs are really mission driven, and that's really their focus. But sustainability is a really big part now of what they need to focus on, and they are. And so they're looking at different revenue streams. It's no longer, can I get a government grant? Can I get a donation from here or there? And so the idea of creating something that's really sustainable for the long haul and that I can scale are really, I think, two things that we're seeing a larger focus on for social entrepreneurs.
And that would make sense just given the space that you live in every day, basically being on campus and working with faculty, student, and staff. So I could see how those values would come forward. That's great. Ruben.
All right. So the visionary component of social entrepreneurship has two aspects for me. One is transformational. And when I think about, for example, how we're doing in South Madison with the projects that we have in South Madison, there's a vision that if we don't, interject, it happens without brown and black participation. But several organizations have decided to step up and to help create that vision. The Urban League helped stepped up and created the Black Business Hub, and so we're acting as a developer, not just as a social service agency. The Nehemiah Corporation has stepped up, and with the Center for Black Excellence, they've got a vision. Central Hispano has stepped up, the Mount Zion Baptist Church has stepped up, and all these agencies that are nonprofits are stepping into entrepreneurial space or space as a developer, and they're crafting a vision for how things might change in that area and helping paint the picture of what it might be. The second aspect of this social entrepreneurship and the vision, I think, is, again, acting more like a business. And so as we do our job development and job placement, we don't hang on to programs that don't work. So we are demand driven. And so we shut down programs and we start them back up. And so we create what the industry needs or what the local economy needs. And so we're working with biotech, exact sciences, we're working with hospitals. And so tomorrow, we might be working with 3M like we did during COVID. So as a nonprofit engaging in social entrepreneurship, you have to be ready to change and to change your programs and know that the needs are shifting. And that's how we participate in visioning for social entrepreneurship.
So I just wanted to pick up on something you said, which is you have to be willing to shut it down and then start it back up. So does that mean that you might have a program that isn't working right now, but then later you'll go back to it and open it back or start it back up? Or you just mean,
I mean, shut it down and start something else back up.
okay, I
because
wasn't sure.
Some
Okay,
of our programs would be a semester-long program.
okay,
When I came in, we went from semester-long programs to 4 to 5 weeks programs. Because people that are waiting for jobs, they can't wait for a whole semester
Okay.
before they get a job.
Mhm.
got
And
it.
then we focus on jobs that are in demand that has a high probability of putting people to work. For example, with Exact Sciences, we've had 13 cohorts, and they've hired 94% of the workers, the folks that have participated in our cohorts. That's what I mean when I talk about demand.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
All right.
All right, Anthony.
I just love everything that everyone else has already said. I'm like, okay, what should I say? All right, so
It's the plate just
right, like, okay, all right. But I think, well, there's a couple of things that I think, right? One is being able, and Ruben already kind of hit on it, sustainability, right? And being able to understand that, sustainability is the main focus.
Okay,
We have to have that be the main focus, because at the end of the day, if you want something to continue to live on, you have to see how it's going to live without you, right? And so when I think of especially visionaries, to be able to pull other visionaries in and to say, hey, what do you think about what we're doing in this program or what we're doing in this area? And then also something that's really big for me is partnerships.
okay,
I definitely believe in partnerships. I love the fact of, some of the work that I see other organizations that are doing, but also I had to learn to realize if that partnership is right for us right now
okay,
and be okay with that if it's not. Right. And then in the mix of all of that, other visions and things of that nature, it come out of that work. And then you figure out ways how you can continue to keep going forward with each other, but then also pulling back as well and be a person's cheerleader. There's plenty of people in here that they don't know. I'm probably one of the biggest cheerleaders in the background, or even while they're looking at me as well. But I think that we have to make sure that we are sharing our vision with people as well, even though if it's not meant for us. To me, I kind of feel like this is a church at the same time, so like we're talking about visions and things of that nature, but that's my true belief.
So what I hear you saying though, in social entrepreneurship space, it's less of that us versus them. This is about like, how do we do this work together?
Exactly.
And there are moments when I'm right here with you and we're doing it together. And then there's other moments where you have to keep moving, but I'm still supporting what you're doing, or vice versa. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where that sustainability then ties in as well. Okay. I love it. Katie,
Yeah. I love
anything
that
left
too.
there for you?
Yeah, I got a little something. So, and I think that everybody knows this. And as soon as I say it, like, oh yes, of course, which is the building capacity piece. And you can't have so you partnership, but also, I look at CEOs of tomorrow, and we had those amazing moderators up here. They're juniors and seniors in high school. Roxy and her team are building the next generation of social entrepreneurs. They and their parents are the ones that are going to be leading these organizations that will benefit from everything that's being built by these folks up here. And the other piece is creating spaces like Georgia Allen has, so that you're structuring other businesses like childcare, those that aren't the high tech or the sexy ones, but scaling them to a platform that can help support these social entrepreneurs with a mission so they can enable themselves to do the work and empower each other to help build partnerships and move things forward. And I think that the sustainability piece that everyone's talking about here is the most important as well. And I did want to touch on, we just graduated our 19th cohort of Upstart, or 18th cohort of Upstart, sorry, last night. A lot of people up here, Ruben, are Upstart graduates. And so one of the main things that is at the crux is a business model canvas. It is boring. It is learning about how to plan your business, but it's having a sustainable business model so that you can survive, so that you can help others. So I do think that's at the core of everything.
Okay.
And then I was going to add one more piece, because in the other work that I do for WARF deals with venture investing. And so there is a shift in the venture capital community to invest in social enterprises and not just as a separate fund. You know, there is a lot of talk about, we have a fund that's separate for Brown and Black founders, or we have an underrepresented fund, or we want to fund female founders. But I am finding there's a lot of venture funds that it's right along with the rest of their investments, and they use this as a piece to evaluate potential investments. Do they have a social mission? Is the founder driven? And how close are they to this problem? And how much do they deeply care? So I think that's good to note as well.
So what I'm hearing you say is that they're actually seeing the innovation with these other niche groups and seeing the benefit of how it really should be asking those questions of all ventures, not
Yes.
just specific ones.
Right. And it's
Okay.
not just, and we'll also take care of the environment as kind of like a secondary thing, or we'll take care of our people just because
Right.
it sounds good.
Right, okay. So we're coming down the pipeline in terms of time, and I've got a couple more questions here. One of the questions I had that we've talked about is just like, so how has social entrepreneurship like changed the face of the community? You know, the business community, neighborhoods. How has it changed it? And Anthony, I was looking at you as someone who might be able to weigh in on that conversation, and maybe if one or two other panelists, but we're going to go into the questions. We're not going to have everyone answer all these questions, otherwise we'll run out of time. So Anthony, this one's for you. So how do you think it's changed the face?
I think it changed the face of people, and I say for myself, particularly, is the fact of showing people that it can get done.
Okay.
Whatever was on your mind, you can achieve it. Network with people it goes right back to what I said earlier. And if it's something that you're thinking about, see if someone else is on the same page. Or and again, and if they're not, that's okay. But start putting yourself in different spaces to see, you know, I mean, this is a lovely crowd, lovely people that are here, but there's a lot of people other people who should also be in this space, right? You know, because, you know, when I think of a lot of our Black and Brown folks, some folks think it's impossible to be able to do the work that what I'm doing, the other stuff that I do that other people don't know about as well, that eventually start learning that I feel is for us. So naturally, in this, hopefully this doesn't sound, I know I'm in front of a bunch of beautiful, educated folks and whatnot. Naturally, I'm a hustler. That's my mindset. I need to be able to figure out, it was something, I'm sorry, I may mess up your name.
Alnisa.
Alisa, okay, right. So when she had,
Alnisa,
I still messed it up, I'm sorry. But one of the parts is that what she had mentioned as far as you don't have to just, in order to have a Black business or a Black and Brown business, you do not have to just be a nonprofit. There's so many other ways to be able to just do business. And it's not meant for you to be afraid to be able to do that.
Okay.
So
basically social entrepreneurship has been tearing down the walls of what business can be for people who haven't in the past been welcomed in the space. So
Right.
it's changing the face of what making money, having a passion and wanting to make money, and then also being innovative. Who are the innovators? That's what I hear you saying.
Right, exactly. And
Okay.
and again, people, once they start to see you jumping out there, you know, I know a lot of people in the community, people that never necessarily even looked at themselves as an entrepreneur, and we start having different types of conversations.
Okay.
Right? What is it that you really want to do? Yeah, I understand you need a job, but what is it that you really want to do for yourself long term?
Okay.
How do you want to flip the narrative for you and your family? What does that look like, right? And if you don't know, come on, let's talk about it. Because everyone is, I mean, I feel there are people who want to be entrepreneurs. Some people don't want the work of being an entrepreneur because it's hard, right? It's not as easy like, oh, okay, I could just wake up anytime I want to, and I can do this, I can do that. You know, going to travel the 7 seas. You know, it's not that. You have to work your way to get there, right? And then being able to have those other conversations, I think, and introducing them to places like this.
Okay.
Right? So,
Okay. I love it. Anyone else want to get on that? And the question being just like, how has social entrepreneurship changed the face of it?
So I think with COVID, some organizations have responded like entrepreneurs typically respond when there's new need to arise. And I'd like to give Urban Triage a shout out because Definitely with, she hasn't duplicated, stuff that nonprofit does. Saw that there was a gap in needing rental assistance and other things. And so I really appreciate, when we do have new nonprofits come, they find their way, they navigate, and they act as entrepreneurs. And that's one good example of how, someone has stepped in to address some of the change.
Okay. Anyone else want to add? All right, I'm gonna keep on moving. I wasn't gonna leave it open. I got 10 more minutes and then we're gonna open it up for Q&A. So just a fire shot warning, think about a question that you would like to ask of the panelists in 10 minutes. I got 10 minutes. All right, so my question now is gonna be like, I want to jump to this one. Like, what key skill sets, knowledge and abilities are important to innovate and be successful in social entrepreneurship? So if you had to think about what would be some skills, abilities, what would they be? And I'm looking at Katie and I'm looking at Alnissa as like some to try to lead us into that conversation.
Go ahead.
Okay. I would say the ability to, well, I would say three things. One, the ability to separate yourself from your business. I think that's important. I know one of the things we say with the Social Good Accelerator is that we're turning solo entrepreneurs into serial entrepreneurs, because the ability for you to say, okay, this business is still doing something that's good, but I'm going to create something else, and and separate that. All of a sudden that one business was your life work, and if it failed, or even if it didn't fail but it died, most businesses die within like 3 to 5 years, right? But that doesn't mean that the business was a failure. It just means that things changed, right? For that. So I think that gives you a certain amount of resiliency. And then I would say the ability to rapidly respond and assess things that need to change. And that's something I feel like people should be doing continuously. It's like you should be adapting your projects and programs on the fly to the people you're trying to serve's needs for that. And that doesn't mean that you're going to change it in the middle of a training session or something like that, but it does mean like that maybe the next year you acknowledge the fact that, oh look, we had more women and they didn't respond to this content, or we had more people under the age of 30 and they responded to something totally different than our typical cohort or people in this space. So that ability, which I think that's frequently overlooked. And then I would just say you really need to know your target audience as well. So get to know the people that you're targeting with your business. That could be the community that you reside in, and but it's even more important if it's a community that you don't reside in and that you're not a part of. Because I see people come out with solutions for things and it's just like, yeah, you don't really know that community.
Okay.
So,
I like, those are really good. Those are really good. And Katie, how would you add to that?
I would say if you don't think that you already have one, you should develop a really good filter and sense of judgment for partners, for whether they're business partners or community partners that you're going to collaborate with, and for helpers. Especially in social entrepreneurship, everybody is amazing and everyone has a good heart and everyone has a wonderful story and a reason for their why. And they all want to reach out and help you. There's not enough time in the day to take all the advice. So being able to assess really quickly who's really going to help you and really going to execute on what they say they're going to execute on, I think is probably the key thing. And that's for anyone, all entrepreneurs, but especially social entrepreneurs, because I think they usually have a tendency to trust everybody and want to take everything at face value. And it's not always probably the right time or place for that. And then the second piece would be, we've talked about this before, is value yourself and make sure that it's not a bad thing to make money. And you need to make money in order to pay yourself what you're worth, pay those around you what they're worth, and be able to scale so that you can help the people that ultimately you're trying to seek out to help.
I think that is so spot on
Mhm,
because I've
mhm.
watched it and I've experienced it. Because especially when it's passion and you want to make change, you
Yeah.
have so many people who come out who want to make that change with you. So having the ability to discern who can help you and who you have to just sort of put in the parking lot
Yeah.
is really great advice. I really can appreciate that. Okay, so the next question I have is just, when you think about your own organization, how do you think your organization has been transformed by social entrepreneurship? And I'm looking at Andrew and Ruben for this one.
Want me to go first? Okay. So we've been transformed in the sense that we leaned into not being a social service organization exclusively and focusing on the fact that we need to be an economic development agency.
Okay.
So we need to make sure that we're changing lives and we're building wealth. And so with some of the projects that we've taken on, we've taken risks like an entrepreneur. And I've mentioned several times our Black Business Hub, where we're going to make an investment, into these women, minority-owned businesses, and we're going to provide partnerships and resources. For example, we have a strong partnership with Generator, where we're going to be training those entrepreneurs through the G Alpha and G Beta training programs. We're going to be giving those entrepreneurs access to capital. So we raise money. We raised about we're going to raise about $3 million to give out grants and loans. Already, we've given out 5 grants for $50,000. So that's leaning into it and helping use our resources to help these small businesses grow. I'll stop there and let Andy jump in.
Thanks, Ruben. I would say the biggest change that I've seen is that the distinction between social entrepreneur and traditional entrepreneur is
Mhm.
really kind of going away.
Okay.
In a lot of respects. And in our organization here, our School of Business has done entrepreneurship training forever and are fabulous at it. And in our programs at Discovery to Product, we've had cohort programs for more traditional capitalists, if you will. But we weren't having cohort programs for social entrepreneurs. And so a couple of years ago at one of these events, I talked to Kelsey, who you know is one of the co-chairs, and Laura and others, and said, we really need to do more around social entrepreneurship here for people who are trying to start a social entrepreneurship business. And I don't know if people know this, but UW-Madison has traditionally been one of the largest suppliers of volunteers for the Peace Corps program. We also happen to be one of the biggest suppliers of Fortune 500 CEOs. The things go together. And now we're seeing them really come together on campus. So our programs, our cohort programs, we don't separate social entrepreneurs from other entrepreneurs. They're all together. They're all learning from each other. They're learning the same skills. And I think that's really important. And I think in our academic programs, we're seeing that in various schools and colleges, social entrepreneurship, humanistic business practices, things like this are getting infused into the academics of our institution. So I think it's really exciting to see how our organization is changing and bringing the two together and infusing them both into the curriculum and the programs that we have.
Okay, I'm going to open it up because just looking at the time, I feel like this is like a great way to land, which is like, how do you think your organization has changed or transformed social entrepreneurship? And I really like what you two were bringing out there. So I want to open it up to the rest of you.
Well, I'll say for our organization, we actually built in a fund for entrepreneurs. It was a small pocket of funds that we had to be able to help men and women who were recently incarcerated to be able to look at themselves as entrepreneurs. I mean, went through a process, and again, it kind of goes back a little bit to what I was saying earlier, being able to help people to know, like, look, you have a plan. Let's try to think about how we can not only how can you provide access to your plan, but also how can you execute it, and you have the proper support to be able to help you along the way. So I think that was definitely a way for us, and that's for Nehemiah.
Okay.
I wear a couple of different hats though.
Right.
I said who.
All right, we've got like 1 minute and 17 seconds. So Katie, you're on this, jump
I'll
in.
take it to home.
Okay. I would say that first, like, through the Social Good Accelerator, we typically say that we're making a difference with people, and then the people who go through our program are changing the world, right? Because they're the people who can go into places and change policies. They're creating businesses that are hiring people, and they're changing the protocols. Like, they're not the typical businesses. They're listening to employees. They're empowering employees to not just work better with them, they're training them up inside the workplace. And some of those employees are then going out and doing their own things. They're changing policies on city committees, other nonprofit boards, health services policies, and all of this other type of things. So, you know, I love that about our role in it, because we're not trying to then be everything to everyone. We're trying to be the best person or the best organization to help the people who come through our program, and to support them and to continuously support them. Like, we work with our people for at least 3 years, sometimes longer, right? And because it's not like 12 weeks, you're ready, right? It's more like you're going to keep coming into different problems and different issues at various points in time, and you can keep coming back to us, and we can introduce you to people. We might be able to give you funding. We can give you other types of support to go out there and make those changes. And then we help you celebrate when you're doing things. It's like, you know, some of the people who've gone through our program have been elected. And I'm like, fantastic, because ultimately we're not teaching you just to be an entrepreneur. We're helping you with being an entrepreneur, but we're kind of teaching you to be a leader.
I hate to do this, but I have to cut you off. I said 1 minute. And you said,
Hey, you were
no,
picking up
I
the
know,
mic.
you thought that was, I realized that. She's like, oh, she saw the opening. That's a social entrepreneur right there. The opportunity, and they go there. All right. So we are opening it up for questions. And Laura, how are we doing? How did you want to do this?
Come on up to the mic. We've got one here. We've got one over there.
Okay, so we've got mics at opposite ends,
Yep, and
and
they
if
should be
someone
on.
has a question, please come up.
Just ask from here, but
Yeah, no, we're gonna force you to use the mic.
I beat you to the mic.
Oh,
Oh,
we should have had a race.
Okay, I want to thank everyone, the panelists, for just being here today and just, you know, spurring out all the knowledge. But then I have a question for you. So, do you think that the birth of social entrepreneurs is due to the social injustice that is going on in our country right now? And in what direction do you think that the social injustice will kind of steer that social entrepreneurship?
that's deep.
All
Yeah,
right,
I love that question.
Okay.
all right. So I have 2 people who want to take it.
Go.
So
guys can
yes.
talk last.
You're done.
Yeah, I'm done. No, yes, I think that we're just the way how people, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I hate to even use the word, but I'm gonna say it anyway, are more woke nowadays, right? You know what I mean? And they're seeing that, hey, I can go ahead and jump out there with my idea, regardless if I have support or not. Even if I have to do this by myself, I'm going to do this until the support comes, and support will come eventually. And I think a lot of people move in that direction now, where before it was kind of like, all right, you know what? Let me just go ahead and just sit in my corner. If I share, I share. If I don't, I don't. You know, at the same time, I'm just going to just let this just kind of die with me and me only. And we've changed that. We kind of put that on his head. So, and I think when we look at all the different injustices that have happened just throughout our community, that has really sparked the fire for everyone in one way or another.
I agree. It's good.
thank you.
All right.
That was an excellent lead into my question, I believe. So what are some of the greatest challenges you're seeing Black and Brown founders in social entrepreneurship facing, adapting to a traditional capitalistic market?
Getting access to capital.
Yeah.
You know, they still don't have banking relationships. And a lot of people talk, but they don't put their investment behind things.
Mhm.
A lot of people say they want to see things change for the better. And when individuals, stick their neck out, to try to do a business or to grow a business, they don't have the support that they need.
He preaching.
There's a second part to this question. That's externally, right? And I agree 100%. What about internally as a Black and brown founder? What are the challenges of adapting to that environment, that entrepreneurship environment?
I think you said it earlier, not having historic models of entrepreneurship in your community or your family. So not being able to see yourself as an entrepreneur or having the right to come up with an idea that's worthy of being a business instead of a side hustle or a hobby. So like taking that leap from, because there are so many lucrative side hustles that could be social entrepreneurship, could be traditional entrepreneurship, and making that leap is kind of a big deal to leave your day job to pursue it. So having the internal, I guess that would be confidence and to know that you could do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a little bit of license here as the moderator. I'm going to agree with that 100%. I think that when you don't have a model of what it's like to be an entrepreneur, especially a Black and brown entrepreneur, a woman entrepreneur, you're really trying to make it up as you go, and you can spin your wheels, and that's expensive when you're trying. This is about scalability, and so you have a really good idea and you're frustrated because you don't feel like you're getting the support that you need to not spin your wheels. Whereas I feel like because there's been a history and a culture of helping, certain identity people and being able to develop their businesses, the help is right there. The advice is free, and it's all like this network and the other thing is because we are social entrepreneurs, the other piece of it is we're doing something that hasn't been done before. So then you get advice from people that they really just talking out their butt because they don't know like what this is that we're doing. Because to Anthony's point, like it is about making things happen for Black and brown people that work for Black and brown people, right? Like, so not everybody understands how that works if you haven't had that lived experience or that understanding of what's taking place. So we need people to be willing to trust that we know what we're doing, but we still need your support in terms of finance or coaching or relationships, whatever. So I just wanted to add to that.
So Annette, I owe you the time check. We have about 3 minutes.
Okay, we got
So
3 minutes.
probably got one more question.
Okay.
There's Laura.
Friends. My question is, you all are showcasing a whole bunch of opportunities for entrepreneurs in Madison. What are some of the gaps that you see or what's missing in Madison and the neighboring areas that could bring new opportunities for social entrepreneurs?
It's hard.
Excellent. Excellent question.
Yeah.
So one of the gaps or challenges is that having a forum to capture young people at the university. So we have brain drain, right now, and we can't create enough opportunities fast enough to keep some of that talent here in Wisconsin. So young brown and Black people go to Georgia, they go to other places, California, where they're taking their talent. So we make the investment here. The University of Wisconsin makes the investment here, but there's nothing done to retain the talent.
I agree with that. Anything any of you would want to add to that you're seeing as gaps?
1 minute.
In one.
I think it's something that hopefully I say her organization correctly as CEOs of Tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So being able to work with our youth and being able to guide them through it, right? Definitely education is important, but then also to be able to keep encouraging them on what their dreams are. I think that's, doing that on a university level. And so to me, I think if the more homegrown stuff that you have here, right, it's easier to stay here. Most people don't stay here because sometimes they're not from here. And then also because they don't see it working here, right?
They don't see themselves.
Yes.
Yep.
I want to add one more thing really quick. And
All right,
this
hurry
is
up.
hard, successful exits. So companies that scale and then exit, and then they stay here and can mentor and be part of the Social Good Accelerator, go to D2P, go to the Urban League and the Black Business Hub, go to Nehemiah and help all of these new businesses, show them what they did. Not just mentoring for the sake of mentoring sake, but actually I was a successful entrepreneur. I did it and I'm going to help you do it too.
Okay.
But that's hard to make into a program, Lauren. If you can do it, I'll take it.
And it's a wrap.
So much.
Thank you to our
Great
panelists.
discussion. Thank you all so much. We
Yes.
are going to start our next panel promptly at 4. So if you need to stretch your legs, but we will start at 4 and we will end that at 4:45 because our moderator has to catch a plane. So be back here at 4, please.
All right, awesome. Well, great meeting you in person. Yeah, so.
Okay, you guys, it's 4:00. We found our last panelist, so we're getting him mic'd up and we are gonna get this party started because we're gonna end on time. So please find your way back in, take your seats. This is to be Resistance, everybody. This is where it all comes together. Every year, the Force for Positive Change concludes with a conversation with founders and primary sponsors, John and Tasha Morgridge, talking with a local change maker. This year, we are honored to feature the Reverend Dr. Alex G., pastor at Fountain of Life Church, founder of the Nehemiah Center for Leadership, and the visionary behind the planned Center for Black Excellence and Culture, which we were just hearing about in this conversation that will be moderated by Dr. Gloria Latson-Billings. We will plan once again to save a few minutes for questions, and we really will end this at 4:45 when we will make the big reveal of everything that you all been waiting for, who the winners are for this year's Force for Positive Change Awards. So stick with us. And it is my pleasure at this time to introduce our moderator, Dr. Gloria Latson-Billings. She is the former Kellner Distinguished Chair of Urban Education from UW-Madison. She is the past president. We could go on a long time about Dr. Latson-Billings. This is the excerpt version. She's the past president of the National Academy of Education, former president of the American Educational Research Association, a fellow of the Hagler Institute of Texas A&M University, a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and a fellow of the American Educational Research Association. She holds nine honorary doctorates from national and international universities. She is the author of the critically acclaimed The Dream Keepers, Successful Teachers of African-American Children and Crossing Over to Canaan, The Journey of New Teachers in Diverse Classrooms, and 12 edited volumes, along with more than 100 journal articles and book chapters. Please join me in welcoming John and Tasha Morgridge.
Thank you, Laura. And you're right. You can just read on and then the panel will be gone. So that we're not going to do that. I am delighted to be here. What I'm going to ask the panelists to do, however, is when you first have a chance to speak, just tell everybody who you are so we won't just do introductions over and over and over again. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to be here with Tasha and John Morgridge. Few people know this, but the reason that I came to the University of Wisconsin was a pasta dinner in Palo Alto, California, because Tasha called me up at my nice warm job at Santa Clara University and said, I hear you might be interested in Wisconsin. And it was Katie Barterdorf. You know, the combination of Tasha Morgridge and Donna Shalala is irresistible. In other words, they don't take no for an answer. So I'm delighted to be here. And I want to start the first question with John and Tasha Morgridge. You're very well known for your investment throughout the nation, but especially here in Wisconsin and in the Madison community. So I wanted you to talk a bit about what kinds of projects interest you and why.
Well, I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I was an education major. And education has been my focal point since then, which is a few years. So most, but not all, of the things that we have sponsored have to do with education in some way. And the reason that we continue doing that is that we feel that education gives people opportunity. Without an education, you will probably survive just fine in life. But to give you the opportunity to really thrive and become the person you could possibly become at your best self, it requires an education. So that's why I personally find education projects important.
I guess I would say that we never expected to be in a position where we could have the capacity to support various organizations. And it was, we've been active kind of local givers in the community that we've lived in. But I think at the point in time where it became clear that we'd been given a lot more than we either expected or were entitled to, we had to think a little more strategically about what we were going to do with that. And there were a couple of criteria. One criteria was the things that had impacted our lives.
Mhm.
And certainly, if you go to Wauwatosa, there is a swimming pool that we were a participant in. Well, actually, there are two. And that was because I was on the swimming team when I was in high school. And we both enjoyed our high school. The second criteria was our own personal involvement. We don't have a staff. This is the staff. Part of that, I guess, is a result of my being a product of the Depression. And, you know, we were upstairs talking, listening to our Native Americans talk about growing food. Well, I've grown food all my life, starting with Victory Gardens in the Second World War. And so involvement was another factor. And then our own personal experiences. Tasha in education. I also, in my dotage, taught for a number of years in a business school. And I think all of those things were part of shaping our philanthropy. And oh, one other thing. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, as it is.
You know, it just has been a lot of fun. You know, some people may struggle with their money, and you read about it all the time. And, you know, after they've bought their fifth or sixth or seventh home. But we've had a lot of fun with the money that came to us. So.
And we've been able to go to college for 70 years.
So the Morgridges are really modest. I mean, if you don't know this building we're sitting in, okay. So much on this campus, it reflects their generosity and their interests. You know, Tasha talked about, you know, being in education and always wanting to contribute to that. You may not remember when the university budget took a huge hit. And there were some changes happening at the state level. And it was the Morgridges that stepped up, and I hope I have my numbers right, but offered $100 million match grant to retain faculty.
Now, there was one other criteria that we kind of like, and that is, you talk about this building. We only put up a small portion of the total. I love places where you can get a little extra for your giving.
Well, and even with that $100 million match grant, the university had to find another 100 million. Guess what? 125 million showed up. So I think what I'm trying to get at is when people are generous and when they see that generosity, it often spurs even more generosity. So having listened to this, Dr. G,
Wow.
I ain't expecting you to give $100 million. I know.
I love that they said, I love that they said that it was fun. I want to have some fun with y'all.
No, you gotta make your own fun.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. That's true. That's true.
But can you say something about how your current project, the one you're undertaking right now, connects with what you've heard from the Morgridges?
Sure. My name is Alex G. I consider myself a serial social entrepreneur, pastor. I founded a couple of nonprofits, podcast host, writer. And I love this community because I've grown up in it and I want to make it better by giving back to it. I love, it's been really a joy getting to know the Morgridges and some of the calls we've had to prep for this meeting. But I think what I hold in a similar space is the desire to give back because of how the community has really benefited me. You know, I'm about to date myself, but in 8th grade, I remember when Alex Haley's Roots came out. And there's one scene that people often talk about, the LeVar Burton scene when the slaveholder wanted to convince him to say that his name was Toby. And he kept saying, it's Kunta, it's Kunta. And even as I reflect on that for like the last 40, 45 years, he was looking back and holding to culture so that he could deal with the present day that he was in and live in the future so that his children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren should live. So when I was fortunate enough to go to West Africa for the year of return to celebrate the 400th year of the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade with about 300 folks, Black folks around the country, when I stood in the slave dungeon and I heard the griot say to those of us who were Black Americans, which was almost all of us, he said, "You are the descendants of the strongest of Africa's strong. And you all have come back here to remind us of the strength in your love for culture. You have come back to reinforce within us that we have not lost you, although the colonizers got involved." In that moment, in that slave dungeon, I said, whatever it is I build in the Center for Black Excellence in Culture, because it was percolating even in 2018, 2019, I said, it will be about resilience. Because all my life, I was shown negative pictures of Africa, negative conceptions of Africa. When students were here because their parents were from Africa and their parents were here in grad school and they went to school with us as kids here in Madison, we teased them. We fought with them. We made fun of them because we felt that there was no connection. And in that moment, I felt tied not only to Africa, but the full diaspora, the African people who went to South America, who went to the Caribbean. And so for me, I see the importance of resilient and building resilient communities by really investing in individuals. And for me, that's really rooted in understanding who you are. At the root of the word resilient is really the sense of elasticity, that you bounce back to something. The way we approach community change is that we drag and try to pull people into new places by building what we perceive that's broken. But resilience means that the elasticity holds its own ability to bounce back to its original shape. So by teaching people through all of our programs, through the Center for Black Excellence in Culture, the importance of Black contributions, not just to Dane County, Wisconsin, the region, the nation, but the world, when we begin to understand our place in the world, it gives us a chance to sit up taller, to understand our role and our place in the world. My last example is when I started at UW-Madison many years ago, I didn't consider myself a scholar or even a smart student. In fact, I wasn't even regularly admissible to Wisconsin. I was admitted through the Academic Advancement Program, which was the evolution of the 5-year program. But when I sat in Professor Nellie McKay's class, I still remember it's Afro-Am 267 and 268. When she talked about who we were and what we did in the country and the world, I was blown away because all I was taught growing up in this community were Black people in chains and the slave units. I had no idea what we had built, what we had constructed, and our impact on the world. At that moment, in that humanities building, I made a decision to become a scholar, to learn, to be proud of my culture, and to allow that to catapult me into new places of change. And so for me, it is really important to build social impact, to build resilience by understanding who we are and who we've been, because that's the best indication of who we're going to be and what we're going to do.
Thank you. One of the things that Dr. G didn't tell you, where I told you guys to introduce yourself, is how many degrees from the University of Wisconsin-Madison exist in your family. So please share that.
Sure. 1970 started with my mom coming here as a high school dropout in Chicago, told her brothers and sisters to come and bring their kids. So today we have 13 degrees in my family from UW-Madison, and I have a cousin who's a junior. So in 2 years, that's going to be 14 degrees from UW-Madison. We love Wisconsin.
That's another form of investment. The fact that
Yes.
you have invested your lives into securing an education here. For both the Morgridges and Dr. G, what differences do you hope to see in this community as a result of the kind of work you either have done here or continue to do here?
You know, I think going back to my interest in education, and I haven't had much experience in K-12 education here, but we have had in Milwaukee. And I am seeing way too many Black and brown students without an interest in education, seeing no reason to get educated, dropping out way too early, cutting off their opportunities. And I guess my question, since I don't know that this community that well as, you know, the K-12, is what you talk about resilience, and boy, that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about teaching resilience. How are you going to approach K-12 kids and high school kids, or, you know, elementary, middle school, middle school is so critical, and high school students? How are you going to bring them in and teach them that resilience?
That's a great question. I'm a former UW-Madison recruiter, and I used to recruit undergrad Black students from across the upper Midwest. And the director of admissions asked me one day, at what age should we start recruiting for UW-Madison? And I said, kindergarten. And he laughed, and I said, I'm serious. So we just celebrated Nehemiah's 30th anniversary last Friday. It was a great event, but we have children who are in our program who are just like 10 or 15 years away from retirement. They stop me and tell me about what they're doing in life. And these are folks we followed for like the last 30 years. They saw themselves in the instructors. They saw themselves in the curriculum. They saw people who are resilient talking about resilience. I was one of Chicago. I was one of the first Head Start kids on the west side of Chicago as a young child. But Mrs. Turner, my first grade teacher, Dr. Gloria, that's why I still love teachers. Mrs. Turner and I have been pen pals since 1970. She's 102 years old, still wears heels and stuff like this. She is, you would love her. But I spoke at her 100th birthday party. She had me stand up in front of the whole class, all Black kids. She was a Black teacher. She told me that I was going to be the president of the United States. She asked me what I wanted to be, and that's what I said. She wrote it on the board, Alexander will be the president of the United States. I moved to Madison, and I learned in second grade at Lapham School from Mrs. Carls that I was a descendant of a slave.
Mm-hmm.
My Head Start, kindergarten, or first grade teachers thought that was important for me to know that. It was essential that I was told it in third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade. And so I think in order to build resilience in our children, we need to stop killing their spirits in schools. I think that we need role models. We need people that are looking like our kids, people who understand our kids. Mrs. Turner raised the bar for a young person who was a Black male on the west side of Chicago in the 1960s. She instilled things in me that I still remember. There's something about resilience that reaches out to future resilient people, but we have to begin understanding that people who look like our children, who love our children, who help our children to see themselves, not only in curriculum, but in the world, that we build resilience by doing that. The reason why so many of our children have resilience is that they've always seen themselves in history. They've always seen themselves in culture and textbooks. Growing up in Madison is like going to grandma's house and seeing everybody else's picture but yours, everyone else's photograph but yours. It's a constant reminder that we're not home here. And at some point you start asking, is there something y'all want to tell me? Like everybody else's picture is here. Everybody else's homework has a magnet on it on the refrigerator except mine. And that's how it really feels. And so I believe that the resilience can work, but it's not so much instilling it in our children as much as making sure that it is not stolen from our children.
You know, our experience, we've just returned from visiting 3 other universities, and our experience is that if you can get them to college, there's there in every one of the college there are support systems, and you may have to help them make that connection, but they exist. There isn't that same support system in place for middle school kids who suddenly have to make they make the decision to some degree by their action whether or not they're going to go on to and graduate from high school.
Right.
And I don't know that we figured out how to help them make that transition. Perhaps we didn't realize how important it was. And as a result, we haven't invested in it. I don't know. I don't have the solution, but I do know this, that if you get them to fill out and apply and get accepted, they'll find money. There is money in all of these institutions, either federal money or other monies that will help them get through the 4-5 years. Yes. But the middle school kid, I don't know. And I don't have a good solution to it.
Well, I don't know that I have.
I've got some ideas.
Okay. And you're going to have fun with it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I have the answer, but I'd like to say that this concept of resilience doesn't just reside within the individual. And I think what we're starting to finally see in South Madison is an attempt to stave off that despair and that hopelessness that we often see when kids get to about 6th or 7th grade.
Right.
So with the work that Alex is attempting to do with the Center for Black Excellence, in the earlier panel, you heard Ruben talk about the Black Business Hub, Central Hispano, moving a branch of Madison College to,
right.
It's creating a kind of vibrancy in a community that when I moved here 31 years ago, and I asked the question, the realtor's taking me around. I said, what about South Madison? The realtor said to me, there is no South Madison.
Yeah.
He says there's East and West. So it's interesting what's in the minds of folks. And we do know that literally South Madison is kind of the gateway to the university. We moved the visitor center to Park Street so that when you come off that belt line, but we want people to not come off the belt line and close their eyes and not think, well, I've got to get at least to Johnson Street before I'm quote, safe. I think the resilience in the community is one of the things that we have to pair with that individual resilience.
Dr. Gore, can I just mention one thing? One of my favorite educators, and I'm not going to, I don't want to botch this, so I'm going to make it in general because I don't want to misquote you. But when we talked about integration, and this stunned me, Dr. Gloria Lasson-Billing says, well, Alex, what you must keep in mind is that when integration occurred, tens of thousands of Black teachers lost their jobs. Culture was baked in. We weren't experiencing the same loss in middle school and elementary school because Black teachers taught you arithmetic, and some of them were biologists because they couldn't get jobs in the plants. And so they taught biology, but they sat with you in Sunday school. They lived in your neighborhoods. You saw them in the grocery stores, and they went away. They became domestics. They did other things. And so we know that we have a history of Black students faring well, but that represented culture and resilience. They looked like us. They lived with us. They knew our parents. And if we messed up in class, they would get us in class, then tell our mamas they got us, and then we'd get it from our mama because they had to get us. And so I think we have to understand that this is something, this level of success and resilience is something that we have experienced in our communities, but it really was connected to teachers who, through integration, didn't make it into the white schools. Black students were integrated, but Black teachers weren't. And I think we've been hobbling ever since.
Good point. So this question is related to the previous one, and that is, indeed, what is the role of education in the vision that you have for this community?
There's a number of things that we're planning on doing that we've done inside our 30 years of Nehemiah. And it has been working with children who might have been deemed as incorrigible. But we found out by teaching them to appreciate their own communities, like where our programs have been held in South Madison, then we could talk about Dane County, the state, and the region. But we started very locally, very granularly. But we also made sure that we talked about Black mathematicians and musicians and artists so that they understood early on that if no place else, we're going to show you who you are. So I think that piece is very important because it grounds people and it keeps students from losing interest. The other piece that we're building in is that we're seeing greater disparity between, let's say, students of color and students from majority culture, as identified like in, Buffalo, that killing where someone felt like the group of Black people are taking things from them. And so we're making space to bring students of all ethnic backgrounds into our space, into the center, and give them an exposure to Black, not just African-American, but African, Caribbean, those who identify as Afro-Latino and African-American experiences in the state and the region, teaching all students about how Black people have impacted their lives positively before they think it's something very negative about it. So I believe that there's an opportunity to use education to build stronger communities that are not fighting each other, afraid of each other, feel that one group is taking something away from another group. One of the major things that we want to do in our center, in addition to giving, a place to showcase Black resilience and Black culture, is to help non-Black students come in and learn about our culture from a very professional, academically centered, and culturally relevant space.
Will you be having any after-school programs for K-12 students?
Yes, ma'am. We currently do now, but we definitely will in that.
At the new Black Cultural Center?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you within reasonable walking distance of the schools where you will be?
Well, I think by being so close to Park Street, which is such a busy intersection, Park and Badger is very safe, but I mean, it's can be awfully unsafe. But for 30 years, we've been finding a way to transport students, elementary students from Randall, Franklin, Midvale, Leopold to our space and to our programs. We're also very close to the transfer point because we're also wanting college students to come because we're realizing so many students are feeling isolated. But Dr. Jenkins is very interested in making sure that students are exposed to our cultural programs. And so what that means is I'm sure that there are ways to find resources to make sure that students can get there. During the day program, they'll be transported through the schools, but we'll find some ways for the younger children to get there after school. That's just such a dangerous intersection, but we've used volunteers and bus and transportation services over the past 3 decades to bring students to our site.
So John and Tasha, you had a lot of fun because I heard you say that. Of the projects that you have done, across the country, what are the ones that you look at and see as really successful and say, oh man, that was a good one? Or
I can tell you a couple that have failed.
we want to do failure analysis. You can talk to the people in the engineering school about that. We want to talk about success.
Probably one of the enormous successes is what we were visiting on Monday and Tuesday. We were at the University of Wisconsin Stout, Parkside, and Eau Claire, and we met with students who are in the Fund for Wisconsin Scholars. And for those who don't know what that is, it is something we started 15 years ago, has been run by Mary Gulbranson, who probably most people know. It's incredible. And there are scholarships for students in all 13 universities in the state. They have to be Pell eligible. They have to have graduated from Wisconsin high school. They have to be under 21, and there's one other category, can't remember, to qualify. You don't have to have.
They have to be accepted.
Or they have to be accepted at the institution, because that's when all those names then of all those students who have those qualifications goes into a big database, and they are randomly selected. Depending upon the situation, this year, I think we've selected 700 who will start at freshman. They have a 5-year scholarship. And when we go to the various schools, and we try to visit about half the campuses each year, spring and fall, and you hear their stories, and you know the difference that this scholarship has made in their lives. They're able to work less. It's $4,500 a year for 5 years, if they need the 5 years. So it's a substantial, but not total. But they're able to work less and study more. A couple of them have gone on some, semester abroad. They are in clubs and organizations, which they would not have had time to do had they not had the scholarship. So it's hearing those stories and hearing, one of them has just finished pre-vet and she's going to vet school next year. They're all over the place. We've had, any major, you name any major, and we've had probably somebody graduated in it. And it's just so satisfying.
The rural communities have some of the same challenges in the sense that number one, it's a small group, some of them 20 in the graduating class.
Right.
So a lack of role models necessarily, typically not a lot of family members that went on to college, kind of a misunderstanding of the value of college. So they have a lot to climb out of, as part of it. And resilience is the key.
Yes.
The ability to address those issues. The other program that we have that also has many of the same kind of criteria is our international undergraduate scholarships at this institution. And the stories of those kids, some of which have come out of refugee camps, are suddenly the first time on an airplane, first time out of their country. And then they land here with snow, cold.
A lot of white people. Yeah. It is a huge adjustment.
Right.
Huge.
So that's been a very kind of reward. So, and it's a small enough group that we kind of follow their, we stay related to we have a lot of children.
We do.
Beautiful.
So
particularly my wife.
They call me grandma.
With males.
Walking across
they
the
love to
campus
tell their stories.
So it's interesting, and John, you talked about that sort of pivotal middle school era, and I actually started my career in middle school. I didn't plan to start it there. Trust me. I was thinking high school, but I ended up in middle school. I think that one of the things that we see among middle school kids that we could actually make a difference with is that, similar to bringing students to university, bringing faculty to university, is that most institutions have very robust recruitment programs. They have very poor retention programs. In other words, I can get you in the door, but now I'm done with you. And I think when we start seeing young people drop off, is because, okay, I landed here with all this snow.
Yeah.
Lots of white folks, what am I supposed to do?
True.
The programs that have been most successful on this campus have provided those students with what I would call kind of wraparound services. And we might think about that for middle school. The recruiting is that they have to go. The law says they have to go.
Right.
So that part we got down. We know they're going to show up there, but how do we close that back door that they don't drop out or they don't get disaffected and not want to go on? So that's probably something we want to think about.
I would make 3 observations. Number one, the time to expose them to the university environment is when they're in middle school. And we saw a good example of that at
Eau Claire.
yes, at Eau Claire, where they brought in all of the district's
Counselors. Weren't they the counselors?
the town, what do you call that? The student council members. And, I mean, they're in an A, so now they're on the property. And the second thing is online classes for high schoolers. Because what online classes for high schoolers tells them is I can do this. If I can do an online class at Wisconsin or Stout or wherever it is, it gives them that leg up. And then I agree with you that, and I don't know that we've developed the model of how to support them once they're, we're struggling with one right now with where we're taking the seniors who have received the program and having them interface with all of the freshmen that come in and interface with all the transfer students and helping them adjust to the environment. I don't know if you read about the one in Georgia, I think it's Georgia Tech, where they use a bot that's named after their mascot. And you can go to him and discuss your problems and what your needs are. I don't know, maybe that's the future.
So now people have to be able to talk to Bucky. That's okay, got it. Be able to have a conversation with Bucky.
Yeah,
That's a problem.
Well, but he's non-judgmental.
That's right. That's true. He's not judgmental. So
It's not judgmental.
well, Laura's giving me the high sign here. And so
Time's
this is
up.
actually time for Q&A. You've had a chance to hear some aspects of the marvelous work of both the Morgridges and Dr. G in this community. So if you have a question, you want people to head to a mic?
Yes, please.
Okay, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. G. I graduated from Edgewood, but I'm going to finish my grad here. So just want to, I'm not a UW student, but I'm getting my grad from here. But I wanted to, the young lady who's sitting next to you, okay, what's your name?
Tasha.
Tasha, how you doing? So I'm Javon Deming. I'm the owner and founder of Pierre Outreach Services. And what that is what you just asked. And what you just asked Dr. G about the resilience of Black kids, why Black kids are so disconnected to the world. So I'm here to help Dr. G answer that question for you. Okay. So what's happening? I'm also in inner city Chicago. Went through everything you could think of that involves that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I didn't see myself going to college until I was an adult because of the things that we had to go through just to survive daily. And surviving daily in those environments comes with transgenerational trauma that these kids, me, myself, as a 40-year-old woman, is attached to today. You guys don't have a space, not in schools, to deal with the trauma, the amount of trauma that these Black kids go through. And this is what I presented, and I'm trying to bring this safe house for our community to get these kids situated. They go to school every day with a high anxiety, not knowing where their next meal is gonna come from. What's happening is my mother and my daddy fight is so much that I can bring to this conversation in regards to why these kids are struggling. I speak the rhythm of the kids because I am the kids. Therefore, I've written a project so the kids can respond to. But until you guys respect the grassroots organizations like me, you guys gonna keep, because we are the people that the community responds to. because we speak the rhythm of these kids. So once a person like me get involved in these kids' lives, they see themselves in me. They see the professionalism in me. They see that I'm not different from my community. I've made it. I got the degrees and I'm still situated for my community. It's nothing different. It's just I obtained and going through the process of the schooling. So now that I'm at that level, I'm still relatable to my community and I'm not giving up on my community because I know psychologically what they're going through. Because a Black little girl, did you all know that Black little girls are the most underserved group in the world? A Black little girl becomes that mother and she's passing on those transgenerational traits to her child. So when we send our kids to school and you guys have to deal with these schools, that trauma becomes culturalized. It's not a behavior issue, that's trauma.
That's right.
Fear now of a world who just neglected us. So I just wanted to just help Dr. G along with that question. I'll put a little spin on it for you, okay?
Got it.
Thank you.
It's so true.
Bob.
You're seeing Milwaukee.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity. And the young lady who just spoke made me think about the data point that's affecting me right now in terms of the sense of urgency that we all need to have. Commonwealth is a research firm out of Boston, and they piggybacked off research from the Urban Institute. They talked about the net worth, the wealth factor of 35-year-olds and under. For white males, it was $22,000. For white females, it was $6,700. For Black males, it was $1,600. For Black females, it was $101. That was the median wealth of the average individual of that gender and color based upon 35 years old and under. So a very stark wealth gap. I learned about building wealth through investing, didn't go as far as I would like to have because I didn't learn about it until I was 28 years old. One of the first stocks that I learned about was Cisco. So I would say thank you very much because I think Mr. Morgridge was running the organization at the time, and it enlightened me as far as how important it can be in closing the racial wealth gap if we really took investment education to its maximum opportunity for our young people. I'm wondering if any of your philanthropy is supporting the intensive investment education of our young people of color and those from underserved communities. Thank you.
You want to respond? Is like wondering of what some of your philanthropy is tied to helping young people sort of understand investment and.
Not really.
Well, we have a project in Milwaukee. We're in 4 K-8 public schools. We're funding each one of them so that the Boys and Girls Club, which is usually on campus, I think in all 4 cases, the city year is involved. And we provide additional, the school system is providing about 3 additional employees. The investment in those schools is $1 million a year additional. And I think we've seen exactly what we've been talking about in terms of 2 things. Number one, the impact, the trauma impact pre the COVID pandemic, and particularly as a result of the pandemic. And I would say that the 4 schools are good schools. They've got dedicated people, probably not enough Blacks, probably not enough Blacks in the school system. Although 2 of them are on the South Side are totally Hispanic, 2, well, principally, I think it, and 2 on the North Side, which are principally Black. And We've had dropout. We've had attendance impact. And, you know, I don't know quite what the solution is. I don't quite know how to attack the program, you know?
Another detail, though, I think that's important for everyone to know is this is not our project.
No.
We were approached by the superintendent of schools in Milwaukee, former superintendent, and it's ongoing with the current superintendent, asked us if we would come in and help to implement this program. And twice a year, we go and we meet with everybody. And this year, the mayor of Milwaukee came to the meeting. He is a product of the Milwaukee Public Schools. He's now the mayor. He's 35
He's a
years
product
old.
of this institution.
That's right. And he's 35 years old. And we talked with him exactly about the trauma that the students are experiencing and thinking about ways in which to help the community so that there's more stability in housing, more stability for the kids within their homes. And you're not going to make huge academic progress unless you've got those elements taken care of.
So I'm the bad moderator who has to run out of here and go catch an airplane. But can you help me thank
Sorry
this
to leave
panel?
you on such a downer.
Okay, so everybody, yeah, sorry for the abrupt transition, but we're gonna keep this on time. So thank you so much, Dr. Ladson Billings. Safe travels. Thank you so much, Dr. G. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. G, for taking the time to share your vision. John and Tasha, we're going to ask you to stay up here. We're going to ask you to stay up here because we have, first of all, a thank you that we want to give you. I'm going to ask Kelsey to talk about this gift that she created. And then we're going to have the big reveal, everybody. So stick around.
Okay, John and Tasha, every year you continue to invest in Wisconsin and organizations and change makers and encourage people to share their gifts and talents with the state and continue to be forces in their own way in Wisconsin. And so we like to give a token of appreciation and gratitude every year. So this year we had a recent college graduate who during the pandemic started doing stained glass as a creative outlet. And she commissioned, we had her commission a custom piece for you guys of the Force for Positive Change logo so that you could look at it in your home and remember the work that you have inspired and how much your work has encouraged young people to take up this charge as well. So I have this for you that we'll give it to you at the end, but thank you. Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I recognize the symbol because we have these incredible fleece jackets with the same symbol.
Yep, that's the Force for Positive Change. Thank you, Chelsea. Okay, so as we've done in previous years, we will once again be showing some short videos of the winners. So winners, when you hear your name, after you put your jaw back up, please come on up. A video will be playing. We're going to announce the 3 open category winners first. Again, and I forgot to mention, most of you know, thanks to John and Tasha's generosity, we're going to be awarding today 6 $10,000 prizes, 3 in the open category, 3 special consideration prizes. And then if you didn't get one of those, please don't run away because we're going to be announcing 7 honorable mention prizes of $1,000 each. So please do stick around and we are going to get things started. And Kelsey's going to tell us a little bit about how the competition went this year. If you could change that slide, John.
Awesome. So as usual, this is always a competitive field of some of the best organizations, most resilient organizations in Wisconsin who are telling their story. This year, we received 65 applications in the first round from nonprofit and for-profit organizations from across Wisconsin. 2/3 of the applications came from areas core or around Madison and Milwaukee. We worked with a panel of experienced judges from academia, from the social entrepreneurship sector, and from public policy to help evaluate all of the applications that came in phase 1 and help us advance organizations to phase 2. 28 organizations were advanced to phase 2. During this time, they submitted a rigorous phase 2 application, and they did a phone call with our judges, and they recorded videos, which you will see from some of our winners. And today, as Laura mentioned, we are pleased to be able to announce the winners after all of our judges had a chance to total their comments and their scores. We have some winners that we're excited to announce today, and I'll turn it over to Laura.
We're going to see, John, if you could advance to the next slide. These are all the finalists. I forgot to mention also that the videos that you're about to see were produced by another social enterprise headed up by Jamie Perez called Beyond Word Production. Thank you, Jamie. Did a fantastic job. Okay, so the 3 open category winners are, John, could you advance the slide? From Milwaukee, the Ability Center, and Cream City Conservation from Madison, Annette. So please come on up and We're going to start the videos. We'll have you take a picture with John and Tasha.
This is Damien Bookman. I'm the founder and executive director of the Ability Center. We help people with disabilities play together with those who they love most. When I was 13 years old, I was diagnosed with bone cancer in my right leg. Subsequently re-diagnosed with bone cancer again in my left leg at 14 years old. Doctors at that time, back in 1991 and 92, told my mom to just take me home and let me die. Nobody expected me to survive my second bout of cancer. And now I'm a nearly 30-year survivor. I've had 28 knee replacements and revisions. I'm the only known survivor of my diagnosis to date. That couples with the fact that I still have both my legs, the fact that I survived osteosarcoma. I realized as a child with a disability, an ambulatory disability, I wasn't really able to play with my friends. And we've added recreational opportunities for people with disabilities in our community to be able to play with their family anytime. I think we're really setting the bar and the standard for what the future of play looks like for people with disabilities.
Cream City Conservation. We are Wisconsin's first Black-owned certified B Corp. We help environmental organizations address the diversity crisis in their workforce. And then we use the profits from that work to provide paid training and employment opportunities for young adults, predominantly of color, in hands-on service to public lands. We are leveraging the profits from our business to reinvest in our community right here in Milwaukee and connecting young people to employment and closing the loop between fostering a generation of environmental stewards while also helping to prepare the existing industry to be ready for this new generation of environmentalists. People of color are hit first and worst by environmental injustice, and we are rarely at key decision-making tables. And if we're going to make smarter decisions and be more innovative, we're going to have to invite and make space for folks who have the most firsthand experience to tackle these issues.
I'm the executive director of Net. I know that people usually think that essential services are, food, housing, jobs. And I don't think they understand how much technology plays a role in that. Our number one goal is finding households that don't have computers, and then we get them laptops that I've actually gotten donated from local businesses and community members, and we refurbish them and give them out for free. Being able to connect people is a positive change. Yesterday, I had a woman come pick up a laptop. She said, "Thank you so much for the laptop. I have cancer. It's my 4th time having cancer. They can't do anything for me, and this allows me to have, therapy meetings." You didn't have to come all the way here. And she said, "I actually did because I want to hug you and I want to thank you. And I want to tell you face to face how much this laptop means to me. I've never needed a computer before. And now it's the end of my life. And it's providing me with a lot of relief because I'll be able to, stay in touch with my therapist and my family members who aren't here. And an absolute positive change in their lives."
You're good. Here we go. I just want to make. That's okay. Good question. How to go anyway. Here we go. Everybody's eyes are open. Congratulations to these folks. We have a few more winners to announce though. So same as the last group, I will announce them. Come to stage when your name is called and while the videos are playing. Next up, we're going to announce our special consideration awards. First is the WEDC Rural Prosperity Award, and that goes to Wild Berries from Wisconsin Dells. The Force for Positive Change DEI Award goes to Climb USA from Milwaukee. And the inaugural Organizational Resilience Award goes to Mad Local Food from Madison. Congratulations. Let's roll the videos.
When I'm president of Climb USA, our mission is to establish a economic ecosystem in which underserved youth can learn, grow, and thrive. Financial literacy is actually crucial to an individual's ability to navigate as an adult because so many quality of life elements have a wealth aspect to them in terms of being able to support the need. It's hard to hold back my passion when it comes to this. We know that our work is important. We want youth to know how to buy Nike stock, just like they already know how to buy Nike shoes. This is good for creating nest eggs, for buying homes, for starting businesses, and certainly for workforce training as well as planning for retirement. We're a force for positive change because we change the lives and the futures of the individuals that we work with, and they are in turn able to impact the communities from which they come.
Owner of Pasture and Plenty. We feed our community in a variety of ways. We really work hard to connect individuals with an opportunity to support local in a new way. That means providing opportunities for the community to purchase local food that helps make their life easier and more convenient without making compromises. It means that we support as many local farms and producers as we can. It means that we've made a commitment to making environmentally sustainable choices super accessible for folks as they look for food solutions, in having a solar-powered restaurant, in having pedal-powered delivery, in making commitments to composting and to sustainable choices when it comes to packaging for food. We focus on women-run and BIPOC-run farms and producers, and we engage the community in cooking classes and events that celebrate the diversity of our community and educate and bring awareness to social justice and environmental justice issues.
And I'm the executive chef and founder of Wild Berries. Wild Berries is a community outreach catering organization that works at using food as a vessel for healing. Our participants in our program are people who are overcoming alcohol and other drug abuse issues or emotional traumas, and we use the healing power and the nurturing power of our traditional and ancestral foods to be the bridge for that healing. It doesn't only affect the immediate participants, but it goes so much deeper into our community. Like every participant is starting a ripple of forward motion and a reclamation of our space and that healing in our community. And the reach of that and every connection or conversation that we have shared around a meal is hopefully planting seeds of positive change in our greater communities with which we reside. All right. Congratulations, all of you. Amazing. So next we're going to announce the honorable mention awards, and we're not going to show the videos because we don't have time, but you can find all of these videos. Actually, there's a QR code in your program that'll take you to the Force for Positive Change website, and all the videos are there. You're going to want to watch them. They're all as amazing as this. And so I'm going to announce all 7 honorable mentions. John and Tasha, if we could get you to do one photo with the honorable mentions, that would be great. So we'll bring them up. We'll give you a certificate, and please come in and be recognized. So the 7 honorable mentions this year are the Dane County Humane Society's Wildlife Center, Dynamic Family Solutions from Utamort, Midwest Bike Share, Bubbler Bikes from Milwaukee, the Nehemiah Center for Urban Leadership from Madison, Presbyterian Student Center Foundation or Pres House from Madison, The Way Out from Milwaukee, and Urban Triage from Madison. Come on up. Congratulations. Thank you, Katie. Yes, let's make room. Great, thank you.
Yep. Some people need to get up front. Yeah.
Take one more for good measure. Make sure everybody's eyes are open. There we go. All right. Thank you. So this concludes our program. Thank you all again for your time. Thanks again to our amazing sponsors. Special thanks to John and Tasha Morgridges for making this possible. Thanks, everybody. Well, we should have just rehearsed that, but I don't care. This is the present, it's in here.
It's probably rewrapped. I wasn't sure if they wanted to see it, but
they're okay. Make sure that they get it. All right.